Hey, it's Coach Jamila, and I wanted to go live again to cover the last part of the series that I've been going over, and that is the secret struggles of strong women. In this part, we're going to be talking about the struggle that strong women have, which can be a strained relationship with one or both parents in childhood, and also making poor choices in men. Now, the reason why we're discussing these two together is because often they are related. And so, hey, I'm going to keep my eyes on me because if I look at the comments, I'm going to get distracted and forget what I'm trying to say. That's just me, sorry. But how I define a strong woman, as I've mentioned in the previous couple of videos, is a woman who has been through severe challenges and obstacles, but continues to move forward. She does not have a victim mentality. She does not have the attitude that she can do it all on her own and doesn't need anybody. That's not strength. Okay, that's actually weakness because you're refusing to look to others and be vulnerable and admit you need help. So that's not how I define being strong. But in being a strong woman, often to onlookers, it can appear as though we have it all together. And so that's what this series is all about, is touching on these areas where that strong woman may still be struggling. Because even though you might be winning in 90% of the areas of your life, you're not going to be winning in 100%. So there are some areas that need some attention, and that's what we're discussing. And so when I say a strained relationship with one or both parents, I'm really specifically talking about in childhood. And so how that could have shown up could have been perhaps either maybe your father was not in your life, or maybe he was in and out of your life, or maybe he was in your life, like your parents were married, but he was emotionally unavailable, meaning he never really made you feel special, valued, or important, or talked to you about your feelings, or really showed you what it was like to be in a relationship with a man who was in touch with his own emotions and was loving and kind and affectionate and all those things. So sometimes you live what you learn, and then sometimes you have a void that you go out and then therefore try to fill. And so that's why I said this connection between making poor choices in men. Some people, jokingly say, oh, daddy issues, but it's really not funny to those who are dealing with it. And it's a vast majority of women, unfortunately, just because of the nature of the way the world is and how families have become. And so a lot of times there are, and I won't say majority because clearly I don't know the majority of women on the planet, but I will say a lot of women don't have a good relationship with their father, or not one at all. And then many women also may not even have a good relationship with their mother. Even if she was there, perhaps she modeled some very poor behaviors, like perhaps she was had an addiction of some sort, and so therefore completely neglected her children, or she put her boyfriends or her husbands first over her children's safety and emotional needs. Or she was working and just literally wasn't there. So wasn't necessarily that she was doing anything bad. She was just absent. And so the kids needed her, but she wasn't physically there. And that's not a judgment. That's just a reality. The children's needs don't change, and the reasons why she wasn't there don't matter. The effect is still the same on the kids. When you get to be an adult, sure, you can look back and say, oh yeah, I get why X, Y, and Z happened. But guess what? 3 or 4-year-old little you was not an adult. And that version of you is still inside and has still developed a strong set of beliefs that are playing out in your life. And so how would you know that if the 3 or 4 version of you was still kind of, struggling? Well, first of all, a lot of times, and this is one aspect too I forgot to mention about your mother, is if she was overly critical. Some people had a mother who was there. She stayed home, but she kind of like was very just particular about how she wanted things done, and kind of left you perhaps feeling like you just couldn't do anything right. And so you just kind of gave up, or you felt guilty if you ever took a moment to yourself to relax watch TV or any of that, and you've carried that into adulthood. You feel guilty relaxing and putting yourself first. And so all of that marries into that having a strained relationship with one or both parents, and then how that can lead into making poor romantic choices in men. Because unless and until we kind of identify where our thought process came from and what we're drawn and attracted to, because here's the thing, we're drawn to what's familiar. And the mind is not in the business of judging, oh, this is good or this is bad. No, it's drawn to what is familiar. So if being around an emotionally unavailable man was familiar, or not having a man around at all and therefore feeling abandoned, rejected, unimportant became familiar, then when we become an adult, we go out and totally unconsciously end up in relationships with men, and where this plays itself out. So then the question is, well, how do I fix it? You mean like get it, got it. So really what you have to do is you're going to have to give yourself what you didn't get from your parents. And the best way to do that is not to go initiate some conversation with them, because this isn't about them. Here's what you have to understand about your parents. They gave you what they had at the time. They didn't have anything more. They didn't have anything less. Though that's just however it played out, whether they were dealing with an addiction, whether they were very young, whether they were immature, whether they were selfish. That's all that what you got was what they could give you at the time. And I guarantee you what they gave you was probably 10 times better than what they received. So they even were showing up with some things that they hadn't healed, and then brought that into a relationship in having children. So you just have to understand and acknowledge that you just got what you got, because that's all they could give you. And having a conversation with them at this point perhaps would only yield you with maybe some additional hurt feelings, because it's not up to them to change and become the parents that you needed or wanted them to be. It's up to you now as the adult to take responsibility for your thoughts, feelings, and actions, and give yourself what they didn't give you. And it's totally possible. Now, some people may not agree with this philosophy that these things in childhood are connected to adulthood, and that's fine. But I don't want you to listen for agreement. I want you to listen for insight and understanding, because that's how we grow, right? So this is an exercise I do with my clients. I'm going to give you kind of the Reader's Digest version, again, that you can try on your own. And I actually did a video that provided a lot more detail, and I put it on my YouTube channel, which you can go there and check it out. But it's on daddy issues and how to heal that. But essentially what I want you to do is to write a letter to your parents, and you're not going to give it to them. You're not going to send it to them. This is totally for you. And there's some key areas I want you to cover in this letter. I want you to talk about what you're grateful for, even if it's just that they gave you life, because you wouldn't be here if, that hadn't happened. And then I want you to cover how they failed you. And I want you to give yourself permission to do that. Sometimes this can be really hard, especially if you were raised by a single mom and you feel like she sacrificed and gave and gave and gave. And all of that is absolutely true. And again, like I said, this is not a judgment against her. This is not an act of disloyalty by you. This is about you simply stating the truth of your experience that you had as a child. It is what it is, or it was what it was, and you don't have to make anybody else feel good about it. You don't have to ease anybody else of their guilt about how they did or didn't do this or that for you. This is about you acknowledging and understanding that you have the right to your feelings and to process them, work through them, and heal them. And you don't need anybody else's permission on that, okay? So yes, you're going to write this letter. You're going to start with your father. And especially if he wasn't in your life, you may get some very interesting results from this. I had a client, and she didn't know her father at all, had never even given him a second thought, didn't think it had any real effect on her. But when she wrote this letter, so much came out. And so these are very powerful exercises. And like I said, I do these with my clients, but I'm just giving this to you to try on your own, okay? So you're going to write these letters first to dad, do the whole process that I'm going to explain, and then you're going to do the same thing for your mom. But you're going to cover what you're grateful for, how they failed you, how that affected your relationships with men, and how that affected how you feel about you. And you're just going to write and write and write and write, get it all out. And then at the end of the letter, you're going to write a paragraph where you're pretty much going to just say, that you understand that they could only give you what they had, and that hurt people. And that was their experience. That's what they went through, but that's not going to be yours. And so you are releasing them. They don't owe you anything. You forgive them, and you're going to move forward because you now know and understand that you are totally worthy and deserving of love of yourself, and even being loved by a good man, or even in friendships or other relationships. Okay? So those are the 2 exercises that you're going to do to help you work through and heal those relationships with your parents. Now, once you write the letters, what you're going to do, and you're going to do them one at a time. So the second step is you're going to do a visualization. So you're going to get an empty chair, and you're going to read the letter to the empty chair and imagine that you're talking to your parent. And a lot of emotions going to come up. That's fine. Let it come up. This is where we get stuck, especially women who are strong. We don't cry. We just carry it forth. That is so ridiculous. Pushing your emotions down and repressing them is not strength. It's not strength. Allowing yourself to feel them and standing in it and knowing that you're not going to fall apart, that you are going to be okay, that it will pass. That takes strength and courage for you. You have to do it for yourself. And so allow those emotions to come up. You may be yelling at the chair when you're doing the exercise. That's fine. Just get it out of your body. And then when it's all said and done, I want to give yourself a couple of days to kind of rest, because you probably will feel stirred up. When we go down into these places and we bring up, those emotional or painful experiences, it could take a little bit to settle. So give yourself a couple of days to rest, and then go on and do your mother, the second parent. And same thing. And then hopefully when it's all said and done, you ought to feel a sense of neutrality towards both of them. And you ought to feel a lightness. You ought to feel lighter. If you don't, it's because the struggle was really to get in touch with the emotion. And if you don't get in touch with it, you can't release it. And so what has happened is it's just kind of come up, and now it's just sitting there because you've now, dredged up all these painful memories and feelings and things. So that can happen. And this is why, like I said, I do it with my clients. So they have me but helping them through the process. But like I said, I just want to share it with you, so you at least have some tool that you can attempt on your own that might help you work through these 2 secret struggles of strong women. Okay. So it's all right to be strong and to have overcome many challenges and obstacles, but to still not be doing great when it comes to feeling confident about yourself, making good choices in men, beating yourself up in your head constantly. These are the secret things that strong women struggle with. Not all strong women, and maybe not all these areas. It could just be one. But it is okay for you to admit that you have this struggle and to heal it and try to work through it on your own, because strong women, we like to do things ourselves first. But if you do need help, or if you feel like, I'm not even gonna bother with that sounds too complicated to me, but can you help me? If that's the case, I do have specific criteria for the clients I work with, and it's laid out in several posts. But I work with women who are go-getters, determined, focused. I mean, they are hungry for change and don't mind these stains. I have a 6-month-old, so it just is what it is. But I work with women who are hungry, who are go-getters, who go after it, who are determined, and are so sick and tired of themselves that they absolutely cannot stand it and are willing to do whatever it takes to change and become a better version of themselves. Nobody can show up at my door and expect me to help them if they want me to convince them that they need help, or explain to them, or want to argue, or any of that. No. You can be that way, but that's fine, but that's not who I work with, okay? So I work with women who are ready to change, who are ready to go after it and make it happen. They typically are divorced or married and struggle with the issues we've discussed in these videos: negative self-talk, self-doubt, lack of confidence, strained relationships with one or both parents in childhood, and then, of course, making poor romantic choices in men. So if that sounds like you, and you would like some help in overcoming these challenges, by all means, you can DM me. My website is coachjamila.com. You can also go there and learn more about me, because strong women, we love to do research and things before we make decisions. And so that's fine. Look me up. I'm on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all of it, right? Because we're on Instagram right now. So anyway, that is the third part to this video series. I hope that you found it helpful. No, I don't expect you to, take these exercises and tools and go out there and solve every problem on your own, but I do hope that they help you to make some significant traction in your own personal development and your desire to heal your emotions and continue moving forward. All right? Thank you for watching.